The sky above New Washington turned purple at exactly 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. People stopped in the streets and looked up. Cars slowed to a halt. The strange color spread across the blue like ink in water. It was 2157, and humanity had reached Mars and Europa but never met anyone from beyond their solar system. Until today. The massive ship appeared without warning. One moment the sky was empty except for the strange purple glow, and the next moment, a vessel larger than any human aircraft carrier hung silently above the United Nations headquarters. Captain, Susan Wright of the United Earth Defense Force was eating lunch when the alert came through. She dropped her sandwich and raced to headquarters, passing crowds of stunned onlookers pointing at the sky. "What do we know?" Susan asked as she entered the command center. The room buzzed with activity as officers studied screens and passed information back and forth. General Davis looked up from a terminal. "Not much. They bypassed all our early warning systems. No aggressive moves yet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, requesting to speak with Earth's leaders." "Translation?" "That's the thing," said Lieutenant Paul Miller, approaching with a tablet. "They're speaking perfect English, and Mandarin, and Russian, and every other human language simultaneously." The world's leaders gathered quickly. President Clark, visibly nervous but composed, took charge of the hastily arranged meeting. "We need military representatives to make first contact," the president announced. "Captain Wright, your record is exemplary. Lieutenant Miller, your background in xenobiology might prove useful. You'll both accompany me to meet these visitors." Susan felt her heart race. She had trained all her life to defend Earth, not to welcome aliens. The meeting location was set at a neutral zone outside the city. As Susan and the team approached the landing site, she saw the smaller craft that had descended from the mothership. It was smooth and silver, with no visible seams or propulsion system. A door appeared in the side of the craft as they approached. From it emerged three beings unlike anything humans had imagined. The first was tall and crystalline, with light refracting through its transparent body in rainbow patterns. It moved gracefully on what appeared to be multiple thin legs. The second floated above the ground, a swirling mass of colored gas contained in what looked like an energy field, constantly shifting in hue and density. The third stood on 6 legs, with an exoskeleton resembling an insect, but with eyes too intelligent and sad to belong to any bug Susan had ever seen. "We are the representatives of the Galactic Council," the crystalline being said, its voice melodic and clear despite having no visible mouth. "I am Ambassador Xylan of the Zinthari. My colleagues are Ambassador Moore of the Vale, the gaseous, being pulsed brighter, and Ambassador Tiklak of the Merakians, the insectoid being clicked its mandibles in greeting." President Clark stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we welcome you." "We wish we came under better circumstances," Xylan replied. "We are here because we need your help." Susan struggled to hide her surprise. These beings had technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, yet they needed human help? They were escorted to a secure conference room, where the alien delegation explained their situation. The Galactic Council encompasses over 300 intelligent species across this spiral arm of the galaxy, Xylan explained. "For millennia, we have lived in relative peace, advancing arts and sciences, exploring and learning. Until the Void Heralds came," Tiklak added, his voice clicking and chittering. "They are not from our dimension. They exist in spaces between spaces. They break through into our reality and consume everything in their path: energy, matter, even the fabric of space itself." Moore's gaseous form darkened to a deep purple. "We have fought them for centuries, losing ground steadily. Entire systems have been consumed, billions of lives lost." President Clark frowned. "While we sympathize with your situation, Earth has limited space capabilities. How could we possibly help against a threat that your advanced civilizations cannot defeat?" Xylan's crystalline form shimmered. "Because you possess something we have lost over our long, peaceful existence: unpredictability. The ability to adapt quickly, to think in ways that defy logic and convention." "You want our military assistance?" Susan asked, confused. "We want your perspective," Tiklak explained. Our civilizations have been at peace for so long that our tactics are predictable, mathematical. The void heralds adapt to our patterns. But humans, your species still remembers conflict. You understand deception, misdirection, sacrifice for tactical gain, concepts that have faded from our collective minds. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We need proof, General Davis finally said. This could be an elaborate deception. The aliens exchanged glances. We anticipated your skepticism, Xylan said. A small Herald scout has breached near your planet Neptune. We tracked it but held back from destroying it so you could witness the threat firsthand. Screens around the room lit up with live feed from space telescopes. Near Neptune, a dark patch appeared like a tear in reality. From it emerged something that hurt the eyes to look at, a shifting mass of angles and dimensions that shouldn't exist together. Diverting the eternal light to intercept, Moore said. Above Neptune, a council ship appeared and fired energy weapons at the entity. The creature absorbed the first blasts before the ship adjusted its attack. Finally, the entity collapsed in on itself and disappeared. That was a scout, Tiklak said quietly. The invasion force contains millions. The room remained silent for several long moments. How many people would you need from Earth? President Clark finally asked. A small team of your best strategic minds, scientists, and soldiers, Xylan replied. Their unique perspectives could make the difference between survival and extinction. Over the next week, debates raged in the United Nations. Some feared a trap. Others saw opportunity in alien alliance. But when more footage of Herald attacks on distant systems was shown, the decision became clear. Earth would help. Susan was appointed to lead the military contingent. 12 humans in total would journey with the council representatives back to the galactic core. 4 military strategists, 4 scientists, and 4 diplomats. As Susan packed her few belongings aboard the alien ship, she looked out the viewport at Earth growing smaller below. She thought about humanity's violent history, the wars, the suffering, the conflicts that had nearly destroyed their planet. Never had she imagined that this dark legacy might one day become their greatest contribution to the galaxy. Ready, Captain? Lieutenant Miller appeared at her side, looking as nervous as she felt. Susan nodded. I hope they're right about us, Paul. About humans being special? He smiled slightly. I guess we'll find out. The great ship hummed to life around them. As Earth disappeared from view, humanity began its first journey into a wider universe. Not as conquerors or explorers, but as the last hope for a desperate galaxy. The ship called Eternal Light moved faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. Susan Wright watched through a viewing panel as stars blurred past. The 12 humans selected for the mission had been on board for 3 weeks now, but the wonders of alien technology still amazed them. Still can't believe we're actually doing this, said Major Olivia Harris, as she joined Susan by the window. Olivia was the best tactical specialist Earth had to offer, known for thinking outside the box. I keep expecting to wake up, Susan admitted. 1 minute we're alone in the universe, the next we're heading to an alien council to help fight interdimensional monsters. The human team had quickly settled into a routine aboard the massive council ship. Dr. Alan Murphy spent most of his time with the Zinthari scientists, trying to understand the physics of dimensional breaches. Lieutenant Paul Miller worked with Dr. Lisa Sanchez to learn about the many alien species in the council. Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster, a veteran of Earth's resource wars, trained daily in the ship's exercise chamber, often joined by curious alien observers. Ambassador Xylan has called a meeting, Paul said, approaching the 2 women. They want to show us something important. The 3 humans made their way through the curving corridors of the ship. Even after weeks aboard, they still got lost in the massive vessel. A small floating light guided them to the correct meeting room. Inside, the rest of the human team had already gathered with representatives from the 3 council species. A large screen dominated one wall. Thank you for coming, Seelan said, light refracting through their crystalline body. We are approaching the outer territories of council space. Before we arrive at the central worlds, you should understand what we face. The screen activated, showing footage that made several humans gasp. A beautiful green planet orbited a yellow sun. Then a dark spot appeared in space nearby. The spot grew, tearing open like a wound. From it poured hundreds of the strange, shifting creatures they had seen near Neptune, but much larger. This was the Merakian colony world of Vishka. One rotation ago, Tiklak explained, his insect-like mandibles clicking softly. Population 12 million. The footage showed the creatures swarming toward the planet. Where they touched, matter simply disappeared. Ships tried to fight them, but were quickly consumed. Within hours, large portions of the planet were simply gone, leaving ragged edges where once there had been continents. The colony was lost, Moore said, her gaseous form darkening with emotion. As were the rescue ships sent to help. The screen went dark. No one spoke for several moments. "Why can't you just avoid them?" Greg finally asked. "Space is big. Just evacuate endangered systems." "We tried that strategy first," Xylan replied. "But the heralds are drawn to energy signatures. Specifically, the type of energy our civilization uses for everything from propulsion to communications. They can sense it across vast distances." Dr. Alan Murphy leaned forward. "So they're tracking your technology signatures? That's actually useful information." Olivia nodded. "It means we could create decoys, set traps." The council members looked at each other in what seemed like surprise. "Using our people as bait?" Moore's form rippled. "That would be unthinkable." "Not people," Greg clarified quickly. "Unmanned devices generating the same energy signature." Lisa Sanchez, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I think we're seeing our first cultural difference. The council, species have been at peace so long the idea of sacrificing anything, even equipment, is foreign to them." Tiklak's antennae twitched. "We operate by consensus and preservation. Every loss is calculated to save the most lives and resources." "Which is exactly why you're losing," Olivia said bluntly. "In warfare, sometimes you have to sacrifice a knight to take the queen." The alien representatives looked confused by the chess reference, but they seemed to understand the concept. "We will arrive at Celestial Hub tomorrow," Xylan said. "The full council awaits your ideas. Please prepare your thoughts on these unconventional tactics." After the meeting, the humans gathered in their shared common area to discuss strategy. "They're too predictable," Greg said, pacing the room. "Any military force that always does the most logical thing becomes easy to counter." Alan nodded. "It's like they're playing chess but announcing their moves in advance." "We need to teach them to be unpredictable," Olivia suggested. "Humans are good at that." As promised, the next day they arrived at Celestial Hub, the heart of council space. The humans stared in awe as they approached an artificial structure larger than Earth's moon. Around it orbited thousands of ships from hundreds of species. "Welcome to the center of galactic civilization," Moore said with pride evident in her fluctuating form. The human team was escorted to impressive quarters within the station. Through massive windows they could see countless stars and distant nebulae. Later that day, they were brought before the full Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, with tiered seating holding representatives from over 300 species. Some were vaguely humanoid, others defied description. Some breathed air, others methane or chlorine. Some existed as pure energy within containment fields. A Zinthari elder addressed the gathering. "For the first time in council history, we have invited a pre-FTL species to join our deliberations. These humans come from a young civilization, but they possess knowledge we have lost, the understanding of conflict, deception, and adaptation." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Susan could feel the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon them. "You expect these primitives to save us?" called out a floating being composed of metallic spheres. "They haven't even left their own system." "We have fought the heralds for centuries," added another counselor. "What could they possibly teach us?" Xylan stepped forward. "Show them, Major Harris." Olivia moved to the center of the chamber, where a holographic display activated. She had prepared a tactical simulation based on the Vishka footage. "Your current defense strategy positions ships in a logical mathematical pattern," she explained, showing the council formation. "The heralds adapted to this pattern after seeing it once, making your defenses predictable. She adjusted the simulation. By introducing randomness, feints, and sacrificial positions, we create confusion. The heralds can't predict where the real defense is. The council watched as her simulated forces, using human tactics, contained the herald incursion with fewer losses. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. "This goes against centuries of tactical doctrine," said an elder Merakian. "Yes," Greg said simply, "and that's exactly why it might work." As the council debated, Susan looked out at the vast gathering of alien species. Humanity had been alone, just weeks ago. Now they stood at the center of galactic politics, offering their most painful lessons: war, sacrifice, and deception, as gifts that might save countless lives. "They're afraid," Lisa whispered to her. "Not just of the heralds, but of thinking like us." Susan nodded. "Change is always frightening, even for beings who live among the stars." Days turned into weeks as the humans worked with council experts. Progress was slow. Many council members still doubted that humans could offer useful help against the Void Heralds. The council war room became the center of heated debates. "Your suggestions require us to abandon our core principles," said Commander Zeal, the Zinthari military leader. His crystalline form flashed with bright colors that indicated frustration. "We have refined our battle formations over thousands of years." "Greg," Foster sighed, "and that's exactly why the heralds keep winning. They've figured out all your moves." Olivia Harris spread out digital maps of recent herald attacks. "Look at the pattern. They always know where your ships will be. You need to surprise them." "Surprise is not our way," Zeal responded. Dr. Allen. Murphy had spent the past week studying the dimensional physics behind the herald incursions. He looked up from his data tablet. "We don't need to change your entire approach to warfare. We just need to introduce enough unpredictability to throw them off balance." The debate might have continued, but alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the war room. "Herald breach detected in the Proxima sector," announced an automated voice. "Major colony world under attack." The screens filled with live images of another world under siege. Dark tiers in space opened around a blue-green planet. Void heralds poured through by the thousands. "Proxima 4 has a population of 300 million, Tiklak said, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. "Our nearest defense fleet is hours away." Susan Wright watched as the council military leaders quickly organized a response using their standard tactics. Ships formed perfect geometric patterns, creating defensive screens around population centers. At first, the defense seemed to be working. Then, as happened every time before, the heralds adapted. They bypassed the strongest points of the defense, grid, and attacked the weakest points. "They're learning your patterns again," Olivia said urgently. "You need to change tactics now." Commander Zeal hesitated, then looked at the desperate situation on the screens. "What do you suggest?" "Break your formations. Create deliberate weak points as traps. Pull back from some areas to strengthen others." "We would sacrifice parts of the planet?" Zeal sounded shocked. "To save the rest, yes," Greg said firmly. "It's that, or lose everything." After a moment of hesitation, Zeal gave the orders. The council ships broke their careful formations. Some areas were left with minimal defense while others were reinforced. The heralds, encountering this new approach, seemed to pause in confusion. They had grown accustomed to the predictable council tactics. Now, faced with apparent weaknesses and unexpected strengths, their attack lost momentum. The council forces used this confusion to strike back, destroying several major herald clusters before they could adapt again. Hours later, when the attack finally ended, Proxima 4 was damaged but saved. Nearly a quarter of the planet had been lost, along with millions of lives, but the majority survived. In previous attacks, entire worlds had been consumed. "A partial victory," Moore said, her gaseous form shifting between hopeful blue and sorrowful gray. "But still so many lost." "It's a start," Susan said gently. "We can build on this." The partial success at Proxima 4 changed everything. The Yao. Council leaders now listen more carefully to human suggestions. Training programs were established to teach Council military forces human tactical concepts. One Merakian warrior named Tilvex sought out Greg after a training session. His insectoid features were hard for humans to read, but his posture showed respect. "Your methods saved my home sector," Tilvex said. "My clutch siblings lived on Proxima 4. Some survived because of your tactics." "I'm glad we could help," Greg replied. "I lost many family members to earlier Herald attacks," Tilvex continued. "I want to learn everything you can teach about human warfare." A bond formed between the human soldier and the alien warrior. Greg taught Tilvex about guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, and the element of surprise. In return, Tilvex helped Greg understand the Council species and their technology. Meanwhile, Dr. Murphy made an important discovery while working with Zinthari scientists. He rushed into the main laboratory where Dr. Lisa Sanchez was studying Herald tissue samples. "I've figured it out," he exclaimed. "The Heralds aren't just attracted to Council energy signatures. They're communicating through dimensional frequency shifts." Lisa looked up from her work. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means we can disrupt their communication," Alan explained excitedly. "If we create a device that interferes with these specific frequencies, we could prevent them from coordinating their attacks." The two scientists worked day and night with their Council counterparts to develop a prototype disruptor. The device was small but powerful, capable of creating dimensional interference that would confuse the Heralds. At the same time, Olivia worked with Commander Zeal to design a new battle plan. Her idea was bold and dangerous. "We use Council technology as bait," she explained during a strategy meeting. "We create devices that generate powerful energy signatures to lure the Heralds to specific locations. Then we spring the trap with the disruptors." "Where would we set this trap?" asked Xylan. Olivia pointed to a star map. "Here, at the edge of Council space, an uninhabited system where we can control the battlefield. The plan requires a small team to penetrate deep into Herald-controlled space to place the beacons," Susan added. "It will be extremely dangerous." "I will lead the mission," Olivia said firmly. The Council representatives looked shocked. "You would risk your life on this mission, when you could direct it safely from here?" Moore's gaseous form rippled with surprise. "That's how humans lead," Susan explained. "We don't ask others to take risks we wouldn't take ourselves." This concept seemed to deeply affect the Council members. They had grown used to making decisions from safe distances, weighing outcomes logically without personal risk. "I will join as well," Tilvex announced unexpectedly. "My knowledge of the border regions will be useful." "Count me in," Greg added. "Tilvex and I work well together." More volunteers stepped forward, both human and Council members. A team began to form for what they called Operation Dimensional Rift. As preparations for the mission continued, Dr. Murphy and Dr. Sanchez completed work on the disruptor prototypes. The devices were tested in controlled conditions and proved effective at creating dimensional interference. "This could actually work," Alan said, as they calibrated the final beacon. "But we'll only get one chance. If the Heralds figure out what we're doing before all the beacons are in place, they'll adapt." Lisa nodded. "That's the risk with any new tactic. But it's better than continuing to fight a losing battle." The mission team gathered for final briefings. The stealth vessel Shadow Dancer was prepared for the dangerous journey. It would carry 12 crew members, 6 humans and 6 Council representatives, into the heart of Herald territory. As Olivia packed her gear, Susan visited her quarters. "You know this mission might be one way," Susan said quietly. Olivia nodded. "Some risks are worth taking. If we succeed, we save trillions of lives across the galaxy." Susan put a hand on her friend's shoulder. "Just make sure you come back. Earth will want to hear this story someday." The next morning, as the Shadow Dancer prepared for departure, the entire human team gathered to say goodbye to their colleagues. The Council had never seen such emotional farewells before. They watched with fascination as the humans hugged, shed tears, and made promises to return. Humans invest so much emotion in each individual life, Moore observed to Susan. We had forgotten how precious each being truly is. That's another lesson we can offer, Susan replied. Sometimes the most important battles are fought for the lives of friends, not just abstract principles. The Shadow Dancer's engines hummed to life. Inside, Olivia took the command seat with Greg, Alan, and their council counterparts at their stations. Operation Dimensional Rift begins now, she announced as the ship slipped away from the station and into the darkness of space. The Shadow Dancer slipped through space like a ghost. Its special coating absorbed sensor scans, making it nearly invisible to detection. Inside, the 12 crew members worked in tense silence. Approaching the first beacon placement point, announced Krell, a Vial navigator whose misty form glowed soft blue in the dim light of the bridge. Olivia Harris nodded. Take us in slow. No sudden power surges. The ship eased toward a small asteroid at the edge of what had once been the Lyran system. Before the heralds came, 5 planets had orbited the yellow star. Now only debris remained. No herald signatures detected, reported Greg Foster, monitoring the sensor array. We're clear for now. Alan Murphy carefully removed the first beacon from its protective case. The device was about the size of a basketball, covered in delicate instruments and glowing slightly with contained energy. Remember, once activated, we have 30 minutes before it starts emitting the signature that will attract the heralds, Alan explained. We need to be well away by then. Tilvex, the Merakian warrior, clicked his mandibles nervously. The asteroid has suitable composition. The beacon will blend with the natural radiation. 2 crew members donned spacesuits and exited through the airlock. They carried the beacon to the asteroid surface and secured it in a small crater. Alan monitored the activation sequence from inside the ship. Beacon 1 is online and dormant, he confirmed when the team returned. Timer set for synchronized activation with the others. Over the next 3 days, the Shadow Dancer placed 5 more beacons at strategic points, creating a rough pentagon shape with 1 beacon in the center. Each placement was more dangerous than the last as they moved deeper into Herald territory. After setting the 6th beacon, disaster struck. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Herald signature detected, Greg shouted. Big one, heading this way fast. Evasive maneuvers, Olivia ordered. Full stealth protocols. The ship dove behind a large planetary fragment as a massive void herald passed nearby. The creature was enormous, at least 10 times larger than any they had encountered before. Its shifting form bent light around it in impossible ways. It hasn't spotted us yet, whispered Krell, as if the creature might hear through the vacuum of space. Then the herald paused. It seemed to sense something. Slowly, it turned toward their hiding place. It's detecting our energy signature, Alan said urgently. The shields are leaking radiation. We need a diversion, Greg said. He looked at Tilvex, who nodded in silent agreement. What are you thinking? Olivia asked. We take the shuttle, Greg explained quickly. Generate a strong energy pulse away from the main ship. Draw it off while you place the final beacon. Olivia shook her head. Too dangerous, we stick together. There's no time to argue, Greg insisted. The mission comes first. You know that. After a tense moment, Olivia nodded. Go. But rendezvous at these coordinates when it's clear. She transferred the data to a small device and handed it to Greg. Greg and Tilvex hurried to the shuttle bay with 2 more crew members, a Zinthari engineer named Lix, and a human scientist named Joe Brown. They detached from the main ship and accelerated away, deliberately creating an energy signature that would attract the herald's attention. Their plan worked. The massive creature turned and pursued the shuttle, allowing the Shadow Dancer to slip away toward the final beacon placement. This is the most important one, Alan explained as they approached a small moon orbiting a dead planet. The central beacon contains the primary disruptor. Once activated, it will create a resonance field with the other 6, trapping the heralds in a dimensional pocket. Lisa Sanchez had been unusually quiet during the mission. Now she spoke up. I've been studying the herald tissue samples more closely. There's something we missed. What do you mean? Olivia asked as they prepared the final beacon. These creatures, I don't think they're invading out of malice, Lisa explained. The cellular structure shows signs of extreme dimensional stress. I think their home dimension is collapsing. They're refugees, not conquerors. This revelation stunned the crew, but there was no time to discuss it. The final beacon needed to be placed immediately. Olivia and Alan suited up and carried the central beacon to the surface of the small moon. As they worked to activate it, a communication came through from Greg's shuttle. We've lost licks. Greg's voice was tight with emotion. The Herald nearly got us. We're hiding in a debris field, but our engines are damaged. Hold position, Olivia ordered. We'll come for you as soon as the beacon is secure. As they finished installing the central beacon, disaster struck again. 3 smaller heralds appeared nearby, drawn by the energy signatures of their work. The Shadow Dancer fired defensive weapons, creating a barrier of energy to protect Olivia and Alan. Get back to the ship now, shouted the Merakian pilot. Olivia and Alan raced across the lunar surface as the heralds closed in. They reached the airlock just as one of the creatures struck the ship, sending it spinning. Beacon activation countdown has started, Alan shouted once they were inside. 20 minutes until full power. The Shadow Dancer's engines strained as they pushed away from the moon. One of the heralds managed to catch the rear section of the ship, tearing through the outer hull. Emergency barriers sealed off the damaged areas, but 3 crew members were lost in the attack. We're losing power, reported Krell. Main engines damaged. Reroute everything to the backup systems, Olivia ordered. We need to reach Greg's shuttle before the trap activates, or they'll be caught in it too. The damaged ship limped toward the coordinates where Greg's shuttle was hiding. As they approached, they could see it was in even worse shape. Half of the shuttle had been consumed by Herald attacks. Greg, status report, Olivia called over the comm. Just me and Tilvex left, came the strained reply. Joe didn't make it. Our life support is failing. The Shadow Dancer moved alongside the crippled shuttle. With careful maneuvering, they managed to dock the 2 vessels together. Greg and Tilvex hurried aboard just as the shuttle's systems failed completely. 5 minutes until beacon activation, Alan warned. We need to clear the area now. The combined weight of the shuttle drained more power from the already struggling ship. Their speed was dangerously slow as they tried to escape the trap they had set. We're not going to make it, Krell said, his misty form darkening with fear. Jettison the shuttle, Greg suggested. It'll give us the speed we need. 2 minutes remaining. Alan counted down. With a shudder, the damaged shuttle separated from the Shadow Dancer. Freed of the extra weight, the ship surged forward, engines straining against the darkness of space. Behind them, the beacons activated. A pulse of energy connected all 7 points, creating a web of dimensional energy. The space within the web began to warp and twist. Nearby heralds were pulled toward the center of the trap. They struggled against the pull but couldn't escape. More and more were drawn in as the dimensional pocket formed. 30 seconds, Alan said. We're still too close. The edge of the dimensional effect reached toward the fleeing ship. Everyone braced for the worst. Then, with a final surge of power, the Shadow Dancer broke free of the effect's range. Behind them, space folded in on itself, trapping thousands of void heralds in a pocket between dimensions. Olivia looked around the bridge. Of the 12 who had started the mission, only 7 remained. The ship was badly damaged, life support systems operating at minimum capacity. Send the signal, she told Alan. Let the council know the trap worked. As Alan prepared the transmission, Lisa approached with her data tablet. During the final encounter, I managed to gather readings from inside the dimensional rift. I know why the heralds are coming here, and I think I know how to stop them for good. Greg looked up, exhaustion evident on his face. How? By helping them, Lisa replied. Their dimension is dying, that's why they're here. They're not invading, they're trying to survive. The damaged Shadow Dancer limped back to Celestial Hub, arriving 3 weeks after leaving. The council had given up hope, assuming the mission lost. When the ship appeared on long-range sensors, celebrations erupted throughout the station. Susan, Wright was the first to greet the survivors as they disembarked. She embraced Olivia, who looked thin and tired from the journey. "We thought you were gone," Susan said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Nearly were," Olivia replied. "But we did. The trap worked." The 7 survivors were taken to medical facilities. Their injuries were treated while council officials debriefed them on the mission. When Olivia mentioned Lisa's discovery about the heralds being refugees, a hush fell over the room. "Refugees?" repeated Ambassador Xylan. "You suggest these destroyers are merely seeking shelter?" Lisa nodded weakly from her medical bed. "Their home dimension is collapsing. The data I collected during our mission confirms it. Their reality is being crushed by some kind of dimensional pressure." "Does this change how dangerous they are?" asked Moore. "They have still destroyed countless worlds." "No," Greg said. "But it changes how we should fight them." A grand meeting was called once the survivors had recovered. The full council assembled to hear Lisa's findings and discuss the next steps. Dr. Alan Murphy joined Lisa at the center of the vast chamber. "The dimensional pocket we created has contained thousands of heralds," Alan explained. "But it's a temporary solution. Eventually they'll break free." Lisa activated a holographic display showing complex dimensional readings. The herald's home dimension is folding in on itself. Based on the rate of collapse, they have nowhere else to go. That's why they're coming here in such numbers. Angry murmurs filled the chamber. Many council members had lost homeworlds and families to the herald incursions. They wanted revenge, not understanding. "What would you have us do?" demanded a Merakian elder. "Welcome these monsters who have consumed our worlds?" Olivia stepped forward. "No, but fighting an enemy driven by desperation will always fail. They have nothing to lose." "We propose a different approach," Alan said. "Using the data we gathered, we believe we can create a dimensional stabilizer, a device that could heal their home dimension." The council erupted in debate. Some called the idea madness. Others saw hope in a non-violent solution. The argument continued for days as experts examined Lisa and Alan's findings. Susan watched the humans defend their position against the angry council. She felt proud of how they stood their ground, speaking with confidence to the gathered representatives of hundreds of advanced civilizations. "This is the greatest strength humans have," Ambassador Xylan said, joining Susan as they observed the debates. "Not your tactics or your unpredictability, but your capacity for empathy even toward those who have harmed you." On the 5th day of debate, something unexpected happened. A herald breach was detected within Celestial Hub itself. Somehow, a small herald had managed to infiltrate the station. Panic spread as security forces rushed to contain it. The humans raced to the breach site. They found security forces surrounding a small, shifting herald trapped in an energy field. "Don't destroy it," Lisa shouted. "I need to try something." Using equipment she had prepared based on her research, Lisa created a simple dimensional frequency modulator. She began broadcasting signals toward the captured herald. "What is she doing?" asked Commander Zeal. "Weapons ready." "Trying to communicate," Alan explained. For several tense minutes, Lisa adjusted frequencies while the herald shifted and twisted in the containment field. Then, suddenly, the creature's movements changed. They became more ordered, almost deliberate. "It's responding to specific frequencies," Lisa said excitedly. "This confirms my theory. They have a form of communication." Over the next several hours, Lisa developed a crude translation system. The herald, which they named Visitor, began to respond to simple concepts. Through basic light and dimensional frequency patterns, they established communication. "Their dimension is dying," Lisa announced after a lengthy exchange. "They came here seeking space to exist. They didn't understand that our space was occupied. Their perception is completely different from ours." The news spread throughout the station. The council reconvened an emergency session, with Visitor contained in a special chamber at the center. Through Lisa's translation system, the council spoke directly with a herald for the first time. "We can help you," Olivia told the creature through the translator. "We can try to heal your dimension so you don't need ours." The herald's response came as pulses of shifting reality. translated into words on screens around the chamber. Heal? Possible? Home dying long time. Dr. Murphy presented his plans for a dimensional stabilizer. This device would reinforce the quantum boundaries of your dimension, preventing further collapse. Many of us need large heal. We would need many devices, Alan agreed, and your people would need to stop attacking our worlds. The communication continued for hours. Finally, a historic agreement was reached. The Council would build dimensional stabilizers if the Heralds ceased their incursions and helped retrieve those trapped in the pocket dimension. Not everyone agreed with the plan. Many Council members wanted to continue fighting, seeking revenge for lost worlds. Others saw the opportunity for peace. This is a dangerous gamble, warned Commander Zeal. If they betray us, we give them time to grow stronger. Sometimes peace requires taking the first risk, Susan replied. That's another human lesson. In the end, the Council voted to follow the human approach. Work began immediately on building dimensional stabilizers based on Alan and Lisa's designs. The first devices were ready within weeks. A joint mission was planned. Council ships would deliver the stabilizers to the edge of Herald space where Visitor would guide them to the dimensional boundaries that needed reinforcement. The mission was successful. The first stabilizers began strengthening the weakened areas between dimensions. Herald incursions decreased almost immediately. 6 months later, Susan stood with her fellow humans on an observation deck, watching a ceremony unfold. The Council was formally recognizing Earth as a full member world, an unprecedented honor for a pre-FTL civilization. Who would have thought, Greg said, standing beside her with Tilvex at his side, that our history of war would lead to peace across dimensions? Ambassador Xylan approached the humans, light refracting beautifully through their crystalline form. Your people have changed the Council forever. For centuries, we sought only to destroy the Heralds. You taught us to understand them. Understanding your enemy is sometimes the best way to defeat them, Olivia replied, by helping instead of just fighting. After the ceremony, the humans gathered one last time before some would return to Earth. A new ship waited in the docking bay. The Earth, vessel New Horizon. It combined Council technology with human design, ready for its maiden voyage. Earth has approved the establishment of a permanent human embassy here, Susan announced, and the Council has agreed to share key technologies with us. Lisa looked out at the stars. And the dimensional barriers are stabilizing. The Heralds are returning to their home. What happens now? Asked Paul Miller. Susan smiled. Now humanity takes its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as teachers and students both. The group fell silent, watching the countless stars through the viewport. Among those distant lights were thousands of worlds and civilizations, none of which had known humans existed just months before. Now humanity's perspective had changed the course of galactic history. Their capacity for both war and peace, for destruction and compassion, had proven to be exactly what the galaxy needed in its darkest hour. Ready to go home and share what we've learned? Susan asked. Home has gotten a lot bigger than it used to be, Olivia replied with a smile. Outside the viewport, the stars beckoned.